Hi there. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. You are witnessing history today. This is the very first episode of CANNAfact Friday. You might be wondering what the heck is CANNAfact Friday. So I will tell you, we're doing a weekly live broadcast right here on LinkedIn Live, where we share stats and facts about consumer behavior in cannabis, and then provide context on what it might mean for the growth of the industry. My name is Adriana Hemans. I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. I am the VP of Strategy at ISA, a research firm specializing in cannabis. And I'm joined today by my co-host, David Palaschuk. I'm also joined by a chainsaw outside my window, so forgive me if you hear a little background noise. David Palaschuk is the author of the very first book on cannabis branding called Branding Bud, the Commercialization of Cannabis. And I should also mention it is a best-selling first book about branding cannabis. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you. And thank you, everybody who's joining us this morning. As Adriana said, she just mentioned a chainsaw, but the truth is her husband is the producer of Chainsaw Massacre 4. And so we might hear the production taking place over the next few minutes, but we'll get over it. We're excited to see the new movie when it comes out.
I'll be sure to share a clip with you when it comes out.
There we go. Right on. Anyway, welcome everybody to CANNAfact Friday. Again, this is our first rollout, so bear with us today and the chainsaw, should it appear. Here we are. We're really excited, to launch this program. And what we've really done is we've taken a fact, a data point that caught our attention and catches our attention every week. And then what we'll do is we'll come and we'll chat about it on a Friday, but we'll bring expert guests. We'll bring the contextualization of these data points to the conversation so we can really understand the data and we can get to a place where we can actually act and use the data, which I think is most important. And we'll show some examples along the way. Yeah, so to help make the most of our time too, feel free to chat with us. Feel free to ask us questions, and not only questions, but if you have any insights or things you'd like to add to the conversation, please feel free to do that as well. What are your thoughts, Adriana?
Well, I'm just excited, and I think really the impetus for this show is people who have been following us for a while have seen every week we put out a stat, right? But stats are great and they tell a story, but we can go deeper with that. We can explain more about what it might mean and what it might even mean for brands that are sort of reacting to changes in the market. So that's what we're focused on here. I think really our audience, the people that will most benefit from this are people who are in branding or marketing or product development, anything along those lines in this very exciting emerging space. So we're here to talk about CANNAfact. So let's go ahead and jump in. A little preamble, though, here is that David and I were talking a lot about what would be the first topic, what would be the first stat. And I think almost immediately we said, we have to do something with beverages. It's so exciting. I think it'll definitely be an entry point for people who are coming into cannabis for the first time. And it's already so widely accepted that I see this as a huge first step in finally destigmatizing the cannabis space. So the stat we're sharing with you today is from a survey, ISA's Can Opinion poll that we do every 2 weeks. We send it out to 1,000 cannabis consumers. This poll was about what the behavior looks like when you're consuming a cannabis beverage. We wanted to know, what are they looking for? What experiences are they having? What else is happening in their lives when they're consuming this? So we asked them to tell us, when you're consuming a cannabis beverage, are you also consuming alcohol? And then secondarily, what we wanted to know, is it always to replace it? Is it sometimes to replace it? Is there some intermingling happening? And the results were surprising to me. I don't know if they would be surprising to you, David, but 40% are actually intermingling alcohol and cannabis. Same occasion, same session. They go hand in hand. They're amplifying their experience. And then 27% say it depends on the occasion. Sometimes they're going to mix them together. Sometimes they're going to choose one or the other. And then there was, let me just pull this up, 33% who said this is a replacement for alcohol. Cannabis is a healthier alternative for me. I'm getting rid of alcohol and I'm bringing in cannabis. So I think what is interesting about this poll is it sort of contradicts a lot of the marketing campaigns that we've been seeing. We see a lot of brands that are bringing out cannabis beverages and they're saying, ditch the alcohol, try this instead. This is healthier for you. And consumers are sort of telling us a different story, that they're not really looking for that all the time. Some are, but 40% are not. Curious if you're seeing the same thing in terms of marketing campaigns, David.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the things that have taken place, over the course of maybe the last year to 6 months are examples of that are Can. Can started off on the left with an ad campaign with alcohol canceled, hangovers canceled, which I thought was brilliant. Um, Only to come back and lots of other rhetoric around anti-alcohol, online, and then only to come back a few months later with partnering up with Kate Hudson's King Street vodka brand and doing a viral video where they mix them. So, I think that's a pivot from what they were doing, but I think it's also a realization, if you will, um, that consumers, alcohol consumers and cannabis consumers, or in this case, cannabis consumers, do mix alcohol and continue to drink alcohol in social settings. And so I think an understanding of that was a smart move as well. So it's really now it's kind of both. You could have your cake and eat it too, right? You can really drink a cannabis beverage and abstain from alcohol, or you can mix it. And I think it really comes back to the reasons why we consume beverages, and we could talk about that a little later. But I'm we'll talk about sessioning later, about normalization a little bit. But I think
Mm-hmm.
I think that's quite frankly that's why the cannabis infused beverage segment, albeit small, is the fastest growing form factor. So
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of information and lots of things taking place. But I think this is a perfect example of an initial ad campaign that still resonates with lots of people. But there's a slight pivot to say, hey, you could do more with this. And even to add further, they also offer non-infused all their flavors non-infused as well, that can be bought now and ordered online and sold across state lines. So there's lots going on with beverages, and they're better understanding who their consumers are.
Mm-hmm. Really good point. I'm glad that you brought that up about the non-infused variations that are available too. This is such an exciting brand and has attracted so much attention from celebrities and people who are coming on board on their board of directors. That it's really just captured the imagination and expanded. Particularly here in California, we see it a lot. I wanted to, if you don't mind humoring me for a minute, David, try to do a little interactivity with the audience. I'm curious to know if anybody recognizes what the campaign on the left was inspired by. There was an ad in the 90s I'll give you even more of a hint, for a soda brand. So I'm curious if anybody can tell what ad from the 90s inspired these ads on the left that you see. And while people are thinking about it, just want to share a couple other things about this campaign. So this campaign, Hangovers Canceled, Alcohol Canceled, came out in Pride Week of 2021. This ad was on billboards, also obviously on social media and in print. It was featured in Ad Week. So I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with Ad Week, but they talk about exciting campaigns and who's behind it and what it means. It was also, in a lot of other publications, but notably that one. and then went on to win a Clio Award. So one more point about this one is also that the models in the ads are actually well-known drag artists, including the winner of RuPaul's Drag Race, which I love that show. Anybody know what it is? I don't think we've gotten any guesses yet. So I will just tell you what it is. It is from the Fanta ad campaign in the 90s. Remember the Fantana girls? Pop colors, dancing in the street, exuberant. That is what inspired this. And the reason why I know this is because Can, the company, from their company Twitter account, tweeted, in 2021, the Fanta girls are drag queens and they drink weed. So I love that twist and modern update. I think it's a really fun way to tackle it.
I love that twist too. I swear my guess was mountain drag, but anyway, you said a soda from the past. How's that for a reinvigorating of a brand? It's interesting. It really is interesting to see that, and to see the left versus the right. How now they've partnered again with not only an alcohol brand, but Kate's alcohol brand, and they're really, as you just alluded to, I mean, the brand is tied to Ellen DeGeneres. It's tied to Gwyneth Paltrow as an investor. Rosario Dawson just came on. They're big in social equity and the LGBTQIA plus and BIPOC community. So it's important. They're doing a lot of good things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, we should maybe dig into a little bit the ad campaign on the right. So this came in, it was released in last December for the holiday season. And it shows, for those of you who haven't seen the ad, definitely go check it out. It's called A Lightly Lifted Christmas. Kate Hudson is there. She's hosting a party, and she has her vodka brand, which you can see in the picture on the bottom, which is called King Street or Kings?
King Street.
King Street. And then they have the cranberry flavored can. So it's very celebratory. And what I like about this other ad campaign too is that they've brought it into people's homes. So when you're watching it, you're like, oh, I can relate to this. I've hosted a Christmas party. I've wanted to, get a little relaxed and have a good time before my guests come over because I'm stressed out about setting it up. So it really gives you that like sense of place and how this product would fit into your life. So I think it's very effective.
Yeah, so do I, and we'll talk about in a moment. How that really relates back to statistics. Where do people consume? Where do they want to consume? Where can they consume? Probably even more important, right? So contextualizing the occasion is really important here. And in this case, they do it, with celebrity, they do it with seasonality, they do it with the flavor profile that relates back to it. There's so many things that are really well done when you think about what they're doing here and the limitations of what they're allowed to do here, so to speak. It's very well done.
Yep. And I think what we can do too is maybe share a few stats about where people would like to be consuming cannabis beverages. So we know that there are consumption lounges, but they're not, widely adopted yet, although I think we're going to get there pretty soon. But you can buy beverages in a public place, but you can't, there's not really a lot of opportunities to consume infused beverages in public places. So we asked people, if it was up to you, if you could, consume your cannabis beverage anywhere you wanted, where would you prefer to drink it? And it was sort of interesting to see that a lot of people are saying, hey, I would like to have this out in public. 27% want to consume at a bar or restaurant, and then 38% at an event or concert. So I think that those numbers will start to expand too as you sample it, become familiar with it. Then you're like, okay, great. Now I feel comfortable being out in public and having this be part of my celebratory routine.
Mhm.
Were any of these stats surprising to you, David, about where people are wanting to participate in this?
Yeah, and I see where we've had a little difficulty with our slides right there, but yeah, I think the stats show, right, that 85% of consumers want to consume at home. So that's quite a large bit. And when we look at a bar, it's 27%, or at a concert is 38%. So it's interesting to see where people where people want to consume, and and really how that comes into play. So the fact that, so taking these stats and then tying them back to what we just showed everybody and what we just spoke about is really important. So this ability to basically create a controlled environment that's in the home that 85% of people really feel comfortable with a celebrity or celebrities, because it's more than just Kate. The ability to bring in a seasonal flavor, the ability to session over time and over the course of the evening, instead of just a high dose 100 meg THC beverage that's going to knock your socks off, and you'll be around for 45 minutes until you sleep through the weekend, depending on your tolerance. But what's great about this is that in this case, it's microdosed. It's typically mixed THC CBD balance, but again, microdosed. I think 5% THC and maybe 3% CBD, but certainly under 10%. And that there's this sessionability, right? And the one thing we spoke about, or I started to allude to earlier, is, again, statistics could be misleading. So while the beverage sector is the fastest growing sector in the cannabis form factor space, it's also, it probably about 3%. So, but the future is bright when it comes to, when it comes to cannabis infused beverages, because beverages are a form factor that everybody relates to. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, from the beginning of history, right? It was water, it was milk, it was blood, and it was wine. And that was what
Oh,
humans
you're
drank.
making me thirsty now.
Yeah, that's what humans drank, and that's what gods drank, right? Beverages relate to everything. They relate to gender. They relate to hierarchy. Within society, they relate to occasion. If someone's drinking champagne, one can assume that it's a special occasion. But that said, there's a lot that takes place with beverages, and there's a lot of growth. And I think once channels open up, and once there's the normalization of cannabis, and that's happening fast, but I think the channels have to open up. I think,
Mm-hmm.
eventually we'll be able to walk into a quick serve store or a gas station and walk down the aisle and see not only the beers and the energy drinks, but also the cannabis infused products as well. I hope that will happen, but again, lots of normalization, lots of regulation needed to deregulation have to come from that. But I would also say that the normalization is right in front of us. When Kate Hudson, was partnering with the cannabis brand that Gwyneth Paltrow and Rosario Dawson are a part of, it's happening. It's happening, and it's really exciting, to see that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad that you brought up that point about the sessionability. And it really does go hand in hand with normalization, right? The low dose is going to be something that's more widely accepted, or people are less intimidated to maybe try it for the first time, or bring it around. It's like, non-threatening, what's going to happen. It's going to be very mild. So that helps with the normalization aspect. And then to your point, the form factor goes a huge way to doing that. It's
Right.
very accessible. People know what it is. You're right. It's like a part of our everyday life, every minute life. I always have a beverage on my desk, not a cannabis beverage, maybe later in the day, but yeah, it's always with us.
And the truth is that, everybody is different. But but so we start off with everyone is different. Therefore, we need to standardize what a beverage is and what a dose is, so we understand what that is. And once we get beyond that, which is always a question, like, what's going to happen if I drink one beer? What's going to happen if I drink 6 beers? What would happen if I do a shot of tequila? And the answer is it depends on body mass and how much you ate and all sorts of things that I can't even get into now. But the variables are great, and so I think the same thing is the case with cannabis. And I think if there's a place for people to start, that first step to say, "Wow, that was interesting, and it wasn't so bad, and it didn't put me to sleep for a weekend, or I wasn't terribly wasted. Hmm, this is kind of fun. I got the giggles. Maybe let me try another one." And little by little, they build up, not only their tolerance, but also that ability to session and to understand what will come from it. Right? It's terrible when you drink something and the results are not what you expected. Let's say. So
Yep.
yeah, and that really comes back to what a brand is, right? I always talk about a brand. A brand is a promise and the ability to consistently deliver on that promise. So, dosing is huge. And again, maybe slightly off topic here, but dosing is important. For example, 10 megs is a dose in Washington State. 50 megs of THC is a dose or is a serving in Arizona.
Yeah,
And
huge variation. No wonder consumers are confused about dosing. So many mixed messages out there.
right, right. And so when you can buy a product in one state also that's 10 megs and the same product that's licensed into another state and it has 50 megs, that again is moving the variables and playing around with the consistency, thereby creating inconsistency, which is a brand's worst enemy.
Yep.
So these are things that are important. And then even coming back just to the beverage space too, you know, in many states, you will get a beverage, and that beverage is actually many servings. So, for example, in Washington State, you can get a bottle with 100 megs in it, and that bottle is a clear soda bottle with a crown top on it. And what do we know from soda, right? With a crown top, you pop it open, you drink the whole bottle. It's not a resealable bottle, but in Washington State, that 100 meg bottle has 10 servings. So it's very misleading when you pop open a bottle with 100 megs and you drink it and you're like, oh, wow, that was 10 servings. I thought that was just a bottle of soda. So,
Right.
so again,
Exactly. Who's going to take a bottle of soda and pour out 10 servings?
that's right.
Nobody.
Exactly. But that's how the rules and regulations are here in Washington State. I'm based in Seattle, but again, these are the things that sort of lead us, into trouble, quite frankly. So again, I come back to Can and say, brilliant strategy on the microdosing, enough to give people a buzz, and then for them to take it further if they so choose, not to knock somebody's socks off and then have them either have a bad experience or never return to it or be afraid of it or quite frankly badmouth it. So I think they're approaching things in a great way. I also think they're using data to inform their their ad campaigns, their marketing campaigns, and it's great to see that in the cannabis space.
Yeah, definitely. I think too, and this is true of a lot of brands, that they're not pushing, but they're presenting themselves as this is a luxury experience. This is something that there's almost like a performative aspect to it, right? So it's such a hip thing right now. So you want to be seen at the party holding the can, and you want it to be a low dose so that you can have multiple throughout the night, and it's like a little bit of a flex when you do that. So I think that's another reason why that low dose really works in complementary positioning with it's luxury, it's celebrity endorsed. There's like a fanciness to it.
Right. Absolutely. And really, it's one of the only, I can't think of any others that are cannabis beverages that have celebrities tied to them. There's I think at this point there's over 54 or just about 54 celebrity cannabis brands, but none that are really focused in the cannabis space. And even though it's not a celebrity brand per se, they've surrounded themselves with lots of celebrities that add cachet to the brand and that really reinforce their connectivity, to the BIPOC community and what they're doing outside of just creating a beverage.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
And that again comes back to a promise, right? If you could do things within a community that's way beyond your brand, that's pretty cool. you know it's more than just selling a beverage, and that's cool. I remember there was a saying, and I don't have this exactly right, but it was Adolphus Bush, when speaking about his company, or his product. He said, "We don't make beer, we make friends." And it's just
I love
interesting.
that.
Yeah, so it's interesting if you could slightly pivot on what you're trying to do, but again, that's what building a brand is, right? That's what building a promise is, and that's what living up to the expectations that you've created. So, yeah. So I think for sure, Can is doing a great job at that.
Yeah, definitely. So I see now that we are coming up to the half-hour mark. So why don't we go ahead and let everybody know kind of where they can find us and what's coming up next? Not only, so I should mention that David is not only my co-host on CANNAfact Friday, but he also does a clubhouse every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific. Do you want to tell us who your guest is on Monday?
Yeah, we've had some amazing guests recently, and really, really relevant, and really just sharing some great information. Recently we had Lisa Weezer, who was the former head of PR and marketing at AB InBev, which is Budweiser. She moved into the cannabis space and created the 850-pound cannabis infused brownie, which was just on Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and Saturday Night Live. So she killed it on that. But we've had some really great people, and we're going to have some really great people coming up, actually. So next week on Clubhouse is Guillermo Bravo from Media Gel. And Media Gel really does lots of online marketing and online display and really everything about the online customer buying journey when it relates to cannabis, CBD, and or alcohol. So he's got lots to talk about and lots to share about how cannabis CBD companies and alcohol companies either can market, or things that they should be mindful of when marketing. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation, and I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. And I love the name, Guillermo Bravo. I mean, you have to listen to what he says with a name like that.
It is the best name ever. I just did a webinar with him yesterday, and I told him that from a personal brand perspective, his name is just perfection. He has the most amazing head of hair, dark, perfect hair with this perfect little gray streak in the middle. He is just exactly what you would think Guillermo Bravo should look like, and I applaud him for that.
Nice. I'm looking forward to hearing the interview for sure.
Yeah, it should be fun. It should be fun.
So we should mention too, I mean, viewers might be surprised that David actually has another media outlet with his podcast that comes out on Wednesdays. Do you want to talk about what's happening with that one? There's like so much going on.
Sure. Yeah, it's a busy week now that the new year has started. Monday nights at 8 p.m. PST, I have my live Clubhouse show. On Wednesdays, I launch my podcast and I've got a different, typically a brand owner or an influencer in the cannabis space, talking about various things related to branding, design, marketing, rules and regulations, those types of things. So we talk about that. And then Fridays, we come full circle to CANNAfact Friday, where you and I take a weekly statistic or data point or a couple of them, and we talk about them, and we try to, link brands to them and see what's taking place in the industry and talk about them and make sense out of what's taking place and why maybe we see, for example, like today, we saw Can heading down a direction, and then all of a sudden they sort of pivoted or changed slightly, and we were curious why, and we started to see these statistics as well, and we brought them together and said, hey, this makes sense now, because when you actually look at the data, consumers, tell us information, and as smart marketers and branders, we take that data and we act upon it. We put it to use, and so that's really what CANNAfact Friday is. One thing to add: we all know there never used to be, but now there's so much data in the cannabis space. But what's missing is the execution. How do I take the data? How do I? And that's really what we're trying to do.
A lot of data, but not a lot of insights. And as you can hear, the chainsaw is back. So I will let David close us out with the last two remarks we have here.
Right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We will be talking about next week functional benefits of newfound cannabinoids, including THCV, Delta 8. We'll be talking about other products like Cosmic View has a product out now with THCV, and Gem and Jane is a new beverage leveraging different cannabinoids as well. THCV is claimed to suppress appetite, and there's some other cannabinoids which we'll talk about too, and what their claimed benefits might be. Finger quotes, air quotes there. That said, we invite you to come visit our site, sign up for our newsletter. We have blogs both on ISA, which is at isacorp.com, and on my website, brandingbud.com. Lots of information there. And that's what we're about, is really just anchoring the data back to real world scenarios, understanding what's taking place and sharing it every week, and helping brands in the ways that we help them to better understand the cannabis space and the cannabis consumer.
Well said. So we survived another week, everyone. It's Friday. Woo!
That's right.
See you next time.
TGICF, right? Thank God it's Cannabis Friday. Cannabis Friday. So we'll be here next week, Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We hope you'll join us. Sorry for any glitches or perhaps even starting just a little bit late today. This was our first time out, but we're really looking forward to coming back every week with some great information, great data points, and great conversation. And moving forward, expert guests, subject matter experts to join in on the conversation and help us with what's going on in the industry. Right on.
Now I'm going to go murder a chainsaw operator. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, David.